this is one of the biggest vulnerabilities and challenges of the hospitality students. They do not know how to think in a critical way. Meaningful work, flexibility, value alignment, it became a priority for everyone. They're young, they're driven, they're passionate. They do not know what they want. But if you show them the possibilities out there, then, they will be happy to stay with you. It will turn them into someone who takes actual actions.
What's up, hospitality? How we can best teach hospitality skills in a language and methodology that makes sense to different generations. We really need to find new ways to inspire and make hospitality a place to be, a place to enjoy, a place to learn how to be humans, as I like to say. To discuss that, I invited Krisztina Soreg, PhD and professor at Leroux, to speak to us about hospitality and about attracting and developing talent in the hospitality industry. Krisztina, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for this invitation. I'm so happy to be here and to have this discussion with you today. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to have you here, Krisztina. And could you introduce yourself and tell us about your role at Le Roche and your background in economics as well, that transition to the hospitality education? How that happened?
It is very correct that originally I'm not the person who comes from the sector. I am an economist. And when I finished high school, I decided to do something completely opposite to what my family was doing at that point. I didn't want to be a journalist. I didn't want to be a teacher of English. I wanted to be an economist. It sounded really cool. And I thought, that I hit the jackpot with it. And then after a while, I actually started to gravitate towards hospitality industry. And in 2022, I got a call from Le Roche Marbella in Spain, and they were looking for a teacher of economics for our undergraduate students. And I got into the university, and I must say that hospitality found me. But being an economist in the hospitality school is like bringing a spreadsheet to a wine tasting, if that makes sense to you.
I love that. Bring a spreadsheet to a wine tasting. Can you develop a little bit more on that? Why is it so different to be someone from economics to then work with hospitality?
Well, economics is the study of how people manage to want everything with nothing. And you can tell it with number, you can tell it with a graph, you can tell it with concepts, approaches, and definitions. But someone who comes from the hospitality industry, they have a really different way of saying things in a very practical approach. So probably the intersection between the two areas is how we teach students to think in a critical way. That's something that I can add as an additional feature to the entire program. And I believe that this is one of the biggest vulnerabilities and challenges of the hospitality students. They do not know how to think in a critical way, how to analyze certain conditions, the environments, how to do any kind of a reasonable prediction. So this is when I entered the picture.
That's such great insights, actually, to see from this analytical point of view. But if you would think, what is the best attributes that the hospitality students bring with them to the school?
Well, they are really flexible and they're really open-minded. And we really love it because they are really hungry for practical knowledge. And I believe that these days, when you check any university program, the biggest fear since 2020 and the entire pandemic-driven environment, that we are afraid that we will receive way too much theory, way too much, outdated knowledge that we will never, ever use in real life while building our career. And I believe that our students, when they come to the campus, they get so much practical, let's say, induction that they automatically get rid of this bias and they know for sure that, there will be a little bit of theory, but at the end of the day, they're surrounded by the best experts and they will have a really, really high probability for building their solid career in the near future.
That's a good point. And you've had quite a long career, academic career, right? So you did your university degree, then your master's, your PhD. And in your experience, how has that conversation around talent attraction, not only in hospitality, but in general, and developing people has evolved over the past years?
I must say that I was working for 9 universities in total with over 10 plus year of teaching experience. And I'm also a researcher, postdoctoral researcher. And what I see that since 2020, as everyone knows, there was a dramatic change in the preferences of those people who decided to invest into any kind of a degree or even a set of skills, because people do not want ping pong tables, right? They want purpose. That's not a quote from me. It was from Laszlo Bock. He was people operations at Google official. And it is so true that meaningful work, flexibility, value alignment, it became a priority for everyone, no matter what. And I think that organizations have been trying really hard to do something, but we're still at the really, really beginning of this entire new era. 86% of job seekers these days, they're looking for a company's reputation. And if you know the website Glassdoor or Indeed.com, we go there and we try to read all those anonymous but super honest reviews, what to expect truly from that position, from that role, not the salary, not the roles and responsibilities, but actually as a human being. Is it going to be a nice experience? What to expect from my bosses? How about the work conditions, the training? All of those things became extremely meaningful for everyone. I believe it is just the beginning for this.
And that's incredible, right? It's so true that we are looking for purpose after that scary moment when we thought that the world would finish. We start looking for purpose and really think through what we're doing here as a human beings, really, right? Like it's what ignite me to start my path. And you say now that there was this change, and do you think that this change is general? It's in every industry, and is it happening also in hospitality, or is only students that are looking for purpose, and the companies on the top are still catching up with what's happening around the world?
I think hospitality is one of the most revolutionary sectors these days, because it was thinking about the past, it was viewed always as the most traditional industry ever. It was really rigid and people had a clear expectation what to do. But since the lockdown, all of us could experience that there is an opportunity for a change, that you can decide to do something else. And, to be honest, it was driven by quite negative experience. Low salaries, really harsh work conditions, no flexibility to move upwards, the role of women within organizations as well, and I mean hospitality sector. And it turned into something where the labor market within this sector started to shift towards the favor of the actual employees, because, they sense that there is another way, that I can leave this sector and I can go somewhere else, I can be remote, I can start building my career from a completely different perspective, still being around people and offering a service, but not being exposed to all those really, really challenging circumstances. And another interesting statistics that I wanted to share is that according to McKinsey, around 60% of employees, they prefer hybrid work these days. And it's one of the key drivers. But, when you think about the hospitality sector, in some roles, that is physically not possible. So this is where the challenge begins, I believe.
Yeah, that's how I always say we can't have a chef cooking from home, right? So that's not going to happen. But there are ways to include, in my opinion, there are ways to include flexibility around the world, around the work. When it comes to hospitality, we just need to be open to talk about and find what flexibility really means to the hospitality worker. But if you have to define what's the biggest challenge that the hospitality industry faces today when it comes to attracting and training talent, what would that be?
Right. So I believe that young people these days, they have completely different drivers than, let's say, 5-10 years ago. I see it in the university almost every day that we have two types of students. The first type is that student who attends classes and participates because they genuinely want to learn, develop, and grow. They will be always asking questions. You see those bright eyes, no matter what I talk about, whether it's statistics or data analysis or any of that. And then there is another type, which is also pretty common. They are there because their parents want them to have that degree for any reason, but there is no genuine passion or motivation. And you do see that because of that, they do not follow you. They do things things in an autopilot mode. And then it's really difficult, to break through that wall. And when it comes to the point that, let's imagine you already graduated, you have that fancy degree, you're out there on the labor market. A lot of companies, a lot of hotels, a lot of restaurants are really struggling these days with developing the so-called employee value proposition, or the EVP, right? So to truly address those really modern and constantly changing expectations of those young and talented people who still have that, passion to continue with the hospitality sector. I believe this is something that we really have to address right here, right now.
And if you would tell hoteliers how to address that, would you be able to explain to them?
First of all, they need data. And because I'm teaching data analytics, I believe that hospitality industry really likes data. And I'm not talking about, occupancy rates or any of that, but genuine human related data, the employees themselves, about their job satisfaction, about the career growth opportunities. For example, how women can develop into those higher positions and ranks. We do not have data, and you can't just go around and create a survey and ask people what they think about it. We need to create metrics which would be truly reflecting the current and actual situation of the sector. And then based on that, we look around and we come up with a strategy of rewards and values and experiences that you can offer on top of a traditionally advertised position. Because, this sector is still viewed by so many possible laborers as a temporary job, something seasonal in a bad way. So we need to break it. And for that, young talents, they want clarity, they want transparency, they want the truth, and then they decide.
So you would say that the challenge persists because hospitality tends to not be as transparent and trying to hold on to old models?
Yeah, absolutely. Really depends on the country, really depends on the size of the hotel, but we do not have enough information to see clearly what's going on in terms of, let's say, employee satisfaction. And when that satisfaction is not available in the long term, it's impossible to keep the talents. And it always comes at a really, really high cost for the organization. It doesn't matter if it's hospitality or not, but whether it's training, whether it's just a really pleasant work environment, the possibility to have a work-life balance, it will keep those people with you for years, for decades. And that's what we have to do.
Good. Thank you so much. Clarifying so many things. So happy. If from your perspective, Lerouge, what is the one solution that educational institutions or employers should implement to address this challenge? Sorry to interrupt. If you're enjoying this show and if you're learning something new today, please consider following the show, subscribe to our channel, or leave us a review. It helps us to help more people through the podcast, and it would mean the world to us. Thank you for listening, and we're back on the chat.
Yeah, that's a really good question. It makes me think hard because there is no one-size-fits-all strategy, if you ask anything like that. But I believe that hospitality is in between theory and practice. And the best universities, the best schools, they should create a so-called co-created learning pathway between the industry and between those people who deliver the education on the spot. Les Roches has been recently granted number 2 rank position by the QS, World University Ranking, when it comes to subjects in hospitality and leisure management. And we do have some statistics because 89% of our students, they already have some opportunities to continue with an actual job offer. We speak about 19% of the cases. But I believe that this is something what every hospitality university should maintain. Try to find the best experts who will be on the spot delivering an attractive educational system, but whatever syllabus, whatever course you deliver, involve an external professional that will give you more clarity. They will challenge you and they will say, oh, by the way, this is not how we do it. Let's have a dialogue, right? Let's have a third party, an unbiased third person who will be, hitting us a little bit from the side and pushing us towards a much more flexible and much more realistic way of learning. And, all those numbers are important, but for example, when a university has a specific accreditation system, it's already a really attractive signal, market signal for possible students to come and to invest into a degree, but then keep it up. And the way we can keep it up, professionals working, learning together with those who are delivering the knowledge, the professors themselves.
That's great. And do you think that there is a bridge to be built between the academy and the industry itself?
Yeah, I believe it is one of the most important missions that hospitality schools are facing these days because, students are really interesting creatures. They sense two things right away. Number one thing, they're perfectly capable of telling if you know what you're delivering or not. So if you're expert of a topic or not, it comes with your self-confidence. It comes with a little bit of experience, but they can also sense whether the knowledge that you try to transmit is actually something that is practical for them, if they find any real interest behind it. And that interest has to be connected to the sector. You need to bring a lot of case studies. You need to work with real data. So for example, I'm teaching data analytics for our VBA6 students. And I'm telling them when I introduce the subject that whatever Excel spreadsheet, whatever database I will share with you, it is all downloaded from real existing companies, countries, and industries. So we do not work with fake data. And trust me, whether they like statistics or not, this piece of information already gives them such a push that no matter what you say, a conclusion, a prediction, it is going to be true about the hotels. It is going to be true about the countries, how exciting it is, organize events. It might guest speakers. And you will be narrowing that distance, what we have between the academia that is somewhere right in the elephant tower sitting and preaching, okay? I'm trying to be a little bit funny in here, but also they will feel that there is room for a healthy discussion, for questions. They're part of your team, right? And that's the good way to approach them.
Yeah, great. I feel that sometimes either hotels are not very open to receive more from the academia, and sometimes academia is not so open to bring hoteliers inside just as a way to exchange information. Do you see that happen as well, or just something that I see around me here?
I think it really depends because I imagine there is a certain, let's say, goal for maintaining privacy, let's say trade secrets or any of that. And not everyone is perfectly capable for example, from the industry to go to university and to deliver an exciting workshop or masterclass in 90 minutes. Not everyone can do that because if you know how to work with people in the hospitality sector, it doesn't mean that you can create this really beautiful and exciting environment for students who had only maybe 1 or 2 internships so far, and the other way around. So you need to find that human capital within the company who can act in both areas, and then it will be the perfect chance, to develop and to grow together.
No, that's awesome. And you said that, of course, it's finding solutions is a hard thing because there is no one solution to fit everything, right? But do you see any second solution that comes to mind, that's something more experimental or innovative that's maybe happening at a university that you would be able to share?
Absolutely. I have to share that besides economics, hospitality, and data, I have another passion. And that passion is about startups. And I've been investigating this whole approach for multiple years now in a row. Behind me, you will see a lot of books which are related to startups, the lean startup model. And I'm also teaching it quite a lot. And I believe that hospitality industry, if you just try to do a little search on Google or see it, is now starting to produce more and more startups. So I believe a university is always an attractive place because it's a hub for students to meet industrial professionals. And the best thing, what they can cultivate together, is an innovative business idea. Give them a chance to develop a business model that might turn into a startup. Teach them the basics for that, how to disrupt the existing competition, how to create a solution that addresses a real existing problem, and they will move mountains for you. So for example, at Les Roches, we have the Spark Innovation Field. It's a really interesting hub where students can actually have a mentor on their sides and they can develop any kind of an innovative business idea to prepare a pitch presentation and to get actual feedback from their mentors and anyone else from the industry. We organize different conferences as well. For example, the SUTUs that we used to have every single year. And it's something that is really, really still at the beginning, but I have high hopes because mentorship, development, innovation, disruption, it's startup. That's just one definition of it. And hospitality is getting there. So let's do it.
That's awesome. It's such exciting program actually, because when we are going through, myself at least, we are building a startup, and I've read the Lean Startup as well. I have behind me 0 to 1. I read so many books, and it's really inspiring to see how other people can bring from nothing to something. And if we can start teaching them early on in their careers, when they are still learning, still full of energy and getting exposed and having mentorship, what a great idea. Having someone to really lead them, take the lead and help them with personalized answers. Look, I would be so grateful if I had that 20 years ago. So thank you for bringing this idea. And we hope that this will accelerate change in the industry as well. That's awesome.
I'll try to do my best, I promise.
That's such a great thing. And how can hotels, schools, and industry players collaborate better to make these solutions more impactful?
At the end of the day, one of the most important, let's say, resources that one can have when you enter the hospitality sector is to have the mentors on your side, let's say from your university, from your school, but also an access to a wide network of people. And I believe that we need to create a collaboration that has an impact. And that will be building something that is an always on partnership model. That's how I call it. So instead of having any, simple transactional collaboration, it would be a transformational partnership between hotels and students who freshly graduated, right? So they already have, let's say, internships, they already have an experience, they have a specialization, but then you try to pull them into the system by showing them a couple of opportunities that they can go through. And hotel schools and industry players, they need to engage into, a continuous two-way conversation. That was never the case in the past. But now I see it's happening, and they realize that the best access to the future talent is happening actually at hospitality schools, right? They're young, they're driven, they're passionate, they do not know what they want. But if you show them the possibilities out there, then, they will be happy to stay with you. And Les Roches is just trying to do this for so many years in a row. If you ever watched any social media post about Les Roches, probably you saw or you read the famous sentence. It says, Les Roches is not just a school, it's a way of life. So once our students are part of the university, they stay with us forever, okay? Because they will consider that it's a really precious source of network, support, help, mentorship, and they believe that it's something that they want to be part of in the far future as well.
That's so you said something interesting that twice, and I have a follow-up question on that. That is, you said once they are with us, they want to stay with us forever. You mean the institution or the industry?
Both. I have to say both because, when you realize that you truly have talent for hospitality and you know how to work with people, how to make them very satisfied, how to grow within this business, then you will always think back about your beginnings. And your alma mater, your university where you graduated from, is always that really, really first impression what you have about anything that will, eventually kickstart your career. The people behind it, your mentors, a campus director, your favorite teacher, a guest speaker that you had the chance to participate at his or her class, it will always bring back memories. And then you will visit the campus and you will reunite with your former colleagues. We have a crazy alumni network as well. And I believe that this is something that is constantly growing. All those really talented, now professional hoteliers are back to their origins, back to their roots, and we try to learn from that as well.
And I asked that because I saw some shocking data lately, and saying that about a third of hospitality students are not planning to continue in the industry. They are just, as you said, doing the studies because they were told to do so, and they want to finish because they started, but that they are not planning to stay. So you saying that At Lerouge, that's not the case.
I'm not saying it's not 100% of the cases that everyone, once they enter, they stay in the sector. We do see that the majority of our students, they truly fall in love with the sector and they try to do their best to stay in there and, to focus on a certain niche. But I've seen cases when my students had a conversation with me and they said, oh, by the way, I'm not sure if I want to stay within the hospitality, but I find real estate sector really attractive. And they believe that there is, a really narrow corridor between those two sectors. So whatever they studied about hospitality, it will be very helpful for them with, for example, luxury real estate sector as well. And, they cannot really get out of that sector because it's all about human beings. It's all about, pleasing customers, finding your way to create value and experience. So I don't think they will get that far and someone will become a mechanical engineer, if you know what I say here. But, there are cases. However, if you do an undergraduate program or degree, it gives you really excellent basics to decide if you want a master degree, if you want to continue with an actual career at a hotel or not.
And that's well said. Well said. It's hard. Sorry, I put you in the spotlight here, but it is hard. It's a hard thing, right? Like hospitality skills are transferable. You can use hospitality skills in any industry. Right here in Czech Republic during the pandemic, there were 2 supermarkets, online supermarkets, and who they target during the pandemic to hire and deliver the shopping, like hospitality people, right? They didn't have a job right now. They speak multiple languages. They are always smiling and they know how to do customer service without having to go through enough training. So our skills are really transferable. And this is one of my worries, right? That while institutions are trying to improve their perks here and there to bring talent and fight for the people that we have available in the industry now, we are just taking people from ourselves and not actually thinking as an industry, what can we do as an industry to bring more people to the industry, not only what better salary I can offer because I'm a corporate, and end up not giving opportunity to the small players to also have talent back, right? So I really think that this is a industry-wide problem and we need to collective work and find out solutions to bring more people to work with us.
Fully agree with you.
Yeah. Now, Krisztina, if we would try to give here to our independent hoteliers 3 steps that they could take right now after listening to this podcast and start implementing in their business that can improve the way that they can attract and can develop people inside their businesses, how would you offer that solution?
Well, it has to be strategic planning behind it. And once your basics, your core, your roots are strong, you can continue with the rest of it. So I would suggest that one of the first steps, what we have to do is a shared curriculum design. So that means that you can involve actual industry professionals, seasoned, experienced people from the hospitality industry who would have access to course content, for example, before that given course is even introduced to students. And it would truly be, adjusted to the actual needs, not something that we believe is important, but what is truly required by the sector. From emerging technologies, the usage of artificial intelligence, for example, sustainability expectations, corporate social responsibility, wellness, or any of these, the soft skills of resilience, empathy. So something that they truly see is really, really needed out there, because the best curriculum is co-authored, right, with the people who are hiring those students at the end of the day. So that is step 1. Okay. Once we're done with this, the next thing would be real-time industry labs, okay? Creating projects which are very interactive, simulating brands, operational challenges, which allow students to have a little bit of an appetizer, what happens out there, but it has to be provided by an actual professional. And to work with true problems, not saying hotel A, hotel B, occupancy rate 25%, data out of the air, as I said before. And that way, it will turn them into someone who takes actual actions. They will think, they will be critical thinkers, and they will be preparing loyalty programs. They will be testing different robots. Digital check-in experiences will be simulated. We have a lot of machines and a lot of simulators at Les Roches, by the way, and it's really, really popular. And once they know it, they can truly imagine what the expectation is out there. And once you're over these two steps, there is one more thing that would make sense to create: joint talent pipelines and mentorship. Everything that happens after. So if you create a well-structured long-term partnership where, for example, industry mentors can guide those students from day one, someone will be there with you. It's a team. They must know that they're not alone out there. And not just until the day of the graduation. They will be holding your hand. They will walk down the road with you. And it will create an emotional connection between you and those mentors. Trust, which is so important in the hospitality industry. And also early talent identification. So these would be the 3 steps that I suggest.
So what's the last point?
Joint talent pipeline and mentorship.
Joint pipeline and mentorship. I try to imagine independent hotelier implementing things like this practically, right? The problem we have always is time. Hoteliers in smaller properties, they don't have time because normally they have one person doing 2, 3, 4 jobs sometimes, right? I've seen one general manager with 3 properties. I've seen the chief financial officer doing marketing and social media. I've seen incredible things. For these hoteliers that struggle with finding time or organizing themselves, but they need to also raise talent inside the industry, inside their own hotels. How would you try to invite them or inspire them to be able to do their jobs and also carry on some talent with them and develop them inside?
Right. Well, the saying, know your enemy. So we can transfer it a little bit, and I would say know your employees, because in so many cases, they do not know who they work with. They do not see them as human beings. They do not see what talents they have, what skills are there, which are not, applied in a correct way. So you should start always with a skill audit, right? You cannot improve what you haven't mapped. So make sure that you talk with the employees, you prepare some kind of an interesting survey, even with elements of gamification. Make it fun, make it really relaxing, like a team building activity. Figure out about everyone what kind of skill sets they have. Prepare any kind of a map that you will be using about each and every worker, what they're good with, what they need guidance with, what kind of training they would be utilizing, digital literacy, a little bit more knowledge about sustainability or any of that. And after that, you can do short interviews with them just to have an emotional connection. And I believe it's an eye-opening for them. And the second thing what we can do is micro-learning. It is super important. We believe that we outsource the best talents and then we let them go. We never provide them actual training on the spot, which would keep them in the system. So I believe that all those training sessions should be broken down into very, very small chunks, something that they use everyday life, how to deal with anxiety even, right? One of the biggest challenges of anyone who works in a hospital is, I do not know how to deal with all the pressure, and someone has to tell me all those techniques and methods. So we have to provide them that as well. And eventually create a learning culture. Learning is cool. Asking questions is welcome. You're okay if you have any doubt. I'm the person that you can trust if you do not know something, and your best trainers, are already on your payroll. So that would be the last little thing what could make sense to apply in practice.
Yeah, that's perfectly answered. And a culture of learning, it's amazing how I hear sometimes directors saying that, yes, if I knew my team, I would have fired everyone and just hire everyone new. And so you wouldn't change a thing, right? Because if you are unable to create a system to develop your team, it's not by firing people and hiring new people that will be able to improve your systems, you improve your businesses. It's not about getting people ready. It's about creating a system to prepare people to work for you, work in this environment. And it's amazing how hoteliers struggle to understand that still, right? That we need to cultivate learning, not just finding people that are ready to go. I think that in the past it was easier to find someone that was ready from school, and that was probably 2 PMS systems, no CRM and nothing else, just talking, answer some letters, and that would work out. And still keeping the same mentality in a world that is changing in an incredible pace.
It's really true. And maybe just one comment, if you allow me, that when you talk about learning and training, just be very careful who you hire for that, because these days everyone claims to be some kind of a coach. If you're on LinkedIn, you know what I mean. But then you truly need to do fact check before you believe that this person will truly bring value to your company. So go behind the scenes and check on the actual expertise of that person.
Very, very good tip. And if we would think about the future of hospitality, what gives you hope or inspiration when it comes to the future?
Well, there are two things. What I always see when I just think about my students, they are really happy to grow and they're really worried to take the first step, because as they say, fear looks extremely wide. But if you take the first step, it's only an inch and that's it. So I believe that adaptability and their resilience, especially the ones who are now in their early 20s, it is incredible. They have experienced one of the most shocking economic, financial, and health crises that we ever had. And they're ready for anything, but they also want to know what is ahead of them. So they're looking for transparency. They want to shape the industry. And we never had that before. Now there are more and more influencers within the hospitality sector, more and more podcasts. When did we have it in the past? Never. These young people are ready to reshape it, to rebuild it, to destroy it, and to create something new, like a phoenix rising from the ashes. And that's what we do exactly at Le Roche. We push their boundaries every single day in a different way. So they develop that resilience that I do not give up. If I do not know something, that's okay, but I know where to go, who to ask, what to do. If I have anxiety, I know what to do with it. And, also emotional intelligence, because we talk a lot about AI and data and everything. But if your goal is to satisfy guest customers, emotional intelligence is one of the most, I would say, significant assets that you must possess. And someone has to tell them how to develop it and how to cultivate it. So when talent feels empowered, which I believe is these days, to innovate and develop meaningful relationships with their work, this is when they're not just staying with you, but they will thrive.
Wow, that's awesome what you just said, and I'll comment on here on the emotional intelligence and the importance of it, because we recorded a podcast, Emotional Intelligence in Hospitality, last year, and it's an emotional intelligence coach who was a hospitality professional, so she knows both sides, and I started working with her as well as a customer, right, learning about my emotional intelligence, and I always thought that I was quite strong emotionally, right? I couldn't understand. And the assessment was shocking on how illiterate I am about emotions. And I really don't understand them, don't understand me. Was such a turning point for me to understand that I still learning. I haven't even started my journey yet, but just to understand that I didn't know anything about it. And it's so shocking and important to know that, because I start to look back and realize how many times my emotions took over and I couldn't label it, I couldn't control it, and I end up missing opportunities in my life because of that. And with young people, I think that they've been through a lot more stress than I've been when I was young. Yeah, I didn't have any pandemic to go. I didn't have any financial crisis to go through. And it's at the same time, we are very digital, right? So there is less human touch and that interaction with other humans, with other kids on that daily basis. And I believe that we are missing a lot of emotional learning and understanding how it works. And that's why this anxiety it's screaming around us, and it's important. So to everyone listen to that, to listen to it today, learn about your emotions. Emotional intelligence is a really important topic. And I was shocked by how I know nothing about it. And I want to learn more.
You are not alone, and it's a really important advice. So thank you that you shared it about yourself. It's not your fault. It's not the fault of your parents or upbringing. It's the fault of our culture and society. And there is a big difference how they expect, for example, men and women to show their emotions in certain situations, but we do not know what's right or what's wrong. And we must know it. So everyone should do their own digging and reading and experiments, because otherwise no one will be there to tell us what's right and what's wrong.
That's right. So let me just give a shout to Vladka, who was helping me with learning about emotional intelligence. And Krisztina, if you would share an inspiring message for our audience? What would you say?
I love it. This is my favorite part. So after all our conversation, there's only one thing that comes to my mind. Think like an entrepreneur. This is my message, because the future of hospitality is in your hands right here, right now. And those days are over when you were just working to get your salary and to keep yourself on top of the surface. Because if you want to thrive in this industry, you need to think like an entrepreneur, and not everyone is capable of doing it. You must be a problem solver. You must take actions. You do not have to know if they're correct or not, but do that, take the initiative, and don't wait for the job or any, opportunity to come to you. Try to create that future and imagine how hospitality will change just in a couple of years from now on. Your career is your business, and whether we like it or not, we're always our own brand. Because if you don't say anything about you, if you do not demonstrate any of your skills, people will put you in a certain category. They will put you in a box, and that will be your brand. And then you cannot get rid of it for the rest of your days. And future starts now. Disruption starts now. Hospitality is hungry for new talents who will develop more and more startups. So get on it.
Think like an entrepreneur. I love that. Krisztina, was awesome to talk to you. Really enjoyed this conversation. How can our audience get in touch with you and learn more about what you can teach?
I would be happy to socialize, connect on LinkedIn. I think this is the easiest for everyone. And anyone, any questions, any requests, I'm super happy to share my insights, my advices, or just a friendly conversation. I'm so happy that we could have this really inspiring talk. And I'm so happy for you that you're like a guideline in this industry who brings up such topics that have never been discussed before. We need it so badly. You're a disruptor. Are you aware of that?
Well, I'm not trying to be. I just want to inspire the industry to do something different. I think that we need it. So thank you for what you said.
Thank you so much.
Schulering, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.